Peppa's school always seemed like a safe place, bright and joyful. But no one suspected what dark secrets hide behind its friendly walls and children's voices. Mummy Pig received a call from Miss Gazelle. George is doing poorly and behaving strangely. Mummy Pig goes to school with anxiety. Something is wrong with her little one. The school corridor is unusually quiet. Even the air feels heavy and ominous. Miss Gazelle greets Mummy Pig with a strange smile. Her eyes look empty and cold. The teacher leads Mummy Pig to the classroom. George sits alone, not lifting his head. Mummy Pig tries to hug her son. George pulls away and remains silent as if he doesn't recognize her. Miss Gazelle explains that George has changed. He no longer plays with his dinosaur. Instead of toys, George draws strange dark figures. The drawings frighten even adults. Mummy Pig notices the classroom is too dark. Windows are covered with black curtains. A tall figure in black emerges from the shadows. Darth Vader slowly approaches them. The Dark Lord speaks in a mechanical voice about power. George must join the dark side. Mummy Pig realizes the horrible truth. The school is captured by evil force controlling children. Darth Vader explains his plan. Children will become his students of the dark side. Mummy Pig grabs George's hand. They must immediately leave this cursed place. Darth Vader blocks their path with a lightsaber. Red light illuminates frightened faces. Mummy Pig screams that love is stronger than evil. George begins to remember his family. Mother's love breaks the spell. George recognizes his mum again and cries. They escape from school while Darth Vader remains. His evil laughter echoes through corridors. At home, the family learns an important lesson. Evil can hide in most unexpected places. A dark force still waits in school. Darth Vader prepares new plans to capture children's. The forest always seemed like a perfect place for berry picking to the pig family, but ancient trees hold secrets that are better left undisturbed. The family went to the forest to collect sweet berries. Everyone was in great spirits, anticipating delicious jam making. Suddenly, Daddy Pig noticed strange black tracks. They led deep into the thicket and looked very unusual. Daddy decided the family should stay in the forest overnight. He said it was too late to return home safely. The family set up camp near a large tree. But as darkness fell, the atmosphere became ominous. Strange sounds and rustling came from the darkness. Something big and black was moving between the trees. Venom emerged from the shadows, his white eyes glowing. He looked like black liquid with teeth and tentacles. Venom surrounded the family with his dark matter tentacles. He spoke about the forest belonging to him alone. The family realized they were trapped by Venom. He fed on fear and negative emotions of people. Venom showed the family visions of their worst nightmares. Each saw what they feared most in life. Peppa saw herself losing all her friends forever. George saw his beloved dinosaur disappearing into nothingness. Mummy and Daddy Pig saw their children suffering. This was the most terrifying vision for parents. But the family realized their love was stronger than fear. They hugged and supported each other tightly. Venom weakened when the family united against fear. Love and unity proved to be his weakness. The family understood the importance of mutual support in difficult moments. Venom retreated but didn't disappear completely. In the morning, the family left the forest forever changed. They became more attentive to each other. Venom remained in the forest, waiting for new victims. He knew fear would always find its way to people. Sometimes white eyes can be seen in the dark forest. Venom continues hunting lonely travelers. In the final scene, a new family enters the forest. They don't know about the danger awaiting them. Venom watches from the shadows, preparing for a new hunt. The cycle of fear is ready to repeat again. The full moon illuminates Peppa Pig's house with cold silver light. But tonight, the moon brought an ancient curse with it. Strange sounds come from the forest behind the house. Wild howling echoes through the quiet village. Peppa cannot fall asleep. Something scratches at the window. Shadows on the walls take frightening animal shapes. George cries in his little bed, pointing at the window. A large furry shadow flickers behind the glass. Mummy Pig comes to comfort the children but freezes. In the yard, she sees huge paw prints. Daddy Pig checks all doors and windows of the house, but locks won't help against what's already inside. Susie Sheep comes in the morning with bad news. Her wool is disheveled, eyes full of fear. Danny Dog and Pedro Pony tell about a strange beast. They saw its silhouette in the moonlight. Madame Gazelle knows old legends about the curse. She warns children not to go out at night. Granny Pig finds strange prints in the garden. They lead straight to the family's house. Grandpa Pig remembers his grandfather's stories about one who transforms under the full moon. At night, the family hears scratching on the roof. Something big and heavy walks above. Strange sounds come from the attic, growling and scraping. No one dares to go upstairs. Peppa sees glowing yellow eyes in the window. They stare directly at her from the darkness. The werewolf appears in the house, but doesn't attack. It searches for something very important. The creature speaks in a human voice about ancient debt. The family must return what ancestors took. Mummy Pig understands this is their family's curse. The werewolf will come every full moon. The family finds an old amulet in the house basement. This is what the mysterious guest sought. The werewolf takes the amulet and vanishes into the night, but its yellow eyes remain in memory forever. In the morning, all traces disappear, but the family knows truth. At the next full moon, it will return again. Peppa looks at the moon and sees a silhouette. The werewolf watches the house from a distant hill. A sunny morning at Peppa Pig's house seemed ordinary and joyful. But outside the window, in the shadow of old trees, danger was already waiting. Peppa was playing in the yard when she saw Susie Sheep. Her best friend looked strangely pale and silent. Susie silently pointed to the dark forest behind the house. Her eyes seemed empty and lifeless, like glass. Peppa followed her friend to the edge of the forest. The trees looked threatening, their branches reaching like bony hands. Susie walked deeper into the forest in silence. Peppa began to worry but continued to follow her. The forest became darker and thicker. Sunlight barely penetrated through the dense crowns of trees. Strange sounds came from the depths of the forest. Cracking branches, whispering wind, and something even more ominous. Susie stopped at an old hut. The house looked abandoned, but smoke was coming from the chimney. The sheep pointed to the door of the hut. Her movements were mechanical, as if she were a puppet. Peppa noticed that Susie's shadow was wrong. Instead of a sheep, the shadow resembled a hunched old woman. The door of the hut creaked and opened by itself. Strange green light and the smell of herbs came from inside. Susie entered the hut first. Peppa hesitated, feeling that something was wrong. Inside the hut, a cauldron with bubbling potion was burning. Dried herbs and strange objects hung everywhere. Susie approached the cauldron and turned around. Her face began to change, wrinkle and age. The sheep turned into an old witch with a hooked nose. Her eyes glowed with malicious green fire. The witch laughed with an ominous laugh. She had deceived Peppa by taking the form of her best friend. Peppa tried to run away, but the door slammed shut. The witch began reading a transformation spell. Green smoke enveloped Peppa from all sides. She felt her body beginning to change. The witch continued to cast spells, stirring the potion. Peppa was turning into a small wooden doll. In the morning, parents found only a toy pig. The real Peppa remained forever a prisoner of the witch. Children's crying can still be heard in the forest. The witch is looking for new victims, taking the form of their friends. Local children no longer play near the forest. They know that you can't always trust even your best friends. Peppa Pig's house always seemed like a safe place, warm and cozy. But none of its inhabitants even suspected what dark secrets were hidden here, behind familiar walls and cheerful children's laughter. Grandpa Pig stood at the doorstep, but wouldn't come inside. His eyes seemed empty and cold, like glass. Peppa called Grandpa to come in, but he only smiled strangely. The smile was too wide and unnatural. Grandpa Pig said he couldn't enter without invitation. His voice sounded hoarse and mechanical. Mummy Pig invited Grandpa to come in, but he continued standing. Something prevented him from crossing the threshold. The family noticed that Grandpa cast no shadow. Sunlight passed through him as if he were a ghost. Grandpa Pig told about his meeting with Baba Yaga. The old witch offered him a deal in the dark forest. Baba Yaga promised Grandpa eternal youth and strength, but in return demanded his soul and ability to enter homes. Grandpa agreed to the deal, not understanding consequences. Now he couldn't enter houses without special invitation. Baba Yaga appeared near the house, laughing with creepy laughter. Her yellow eyes glowed in darkness. Teeth were sharp. The witch said that Grandpa now belonged to her. He must bring her new victims for deals. The family understood that Grandpa was no longer who he was. Baba Yaga turned him into her servant. Grandpa Pig asked family not to invite him anymore. He feared he would harm them against his will. Baba Yaga disappeared in clouds of smoke, taking Grandpa with her. The family remained alone, trembling with fear and sadness. At night, they heard Grandpa's voice outside window. He asked to let him in, but family knew it was trap. In the morning, strange objects lay at doorstep. Baba Yaga left them as reminder of her power. Peppa learned important lesson about greed and deals. Some offers are too good to be true. The family never saw real Grandpa again. But sometimes at night, they heard his sad voice in wind. The house became a place of caution and wisdom. Peppa's school had always been a place of joy and fun. But today, something changed in the familiar atmosphere. A new student entered the classroom with a mysterious smile. His eyes glowed with a strange green light. Madame Gazelle introduced him as Merlin. All the children immediately loved their new friend. Merlin performed amazing tricks during breaks. Flowers appeared from thin air as if by magic. Peppa and her friends were delighted. No one noticed the dark shadows around the wizard. Merlin told them about his house in the forest. He invited everyone to a party on the weekend. The children gladly accepted the invitation. Parents allowed the children to visit their new friend. On Saturday, everyone gathered at the forest entrance. Merlin greeted them with a wide smile. The forest path became darker and darker. Trees whispered something ominous in the wind. Merlin's house looked strange and frightening. Windows glowed with the same green light. Inside the house were many strange objects. Cauldrons bubbled and books flew through the air. Merlin offered the children special treats. Something suspicious was steaming in the cups. Peppa was the first to sense something wrong. Her friends began behaving strangely. The children's eyes became empty and lifeless. They moved like enchanted dolls. Merlin laughed with an evil laugh. His true face finally showed to the children. He was an ancient evil wizard. For centuries, he collected children's souls for his spells. Peppa tried to escape from the house, but doors and windows were locked by magic. The wizard began casting a spell. Green light enveloped all the children. Peppa screamed, but her voice disappeared. She felt her will leaving her body. Now the children will stay in the forest house forever. They will serve the evil wizard, and a new student will appear at school. The story will repeat again and again. Lost parents. A sunny day illuminated Peppa Pig's house, filling it with familiar laughter. Peppa and George were playing in their room with the bunk bed against the wall. Mummy Pig was cooking in the kitchen while Daddy Pig read his newspaper in the living room. Everything seemed normal, but a subtle tension hung in the air. Suddenly, a strange humming sound came from the sky. Peppa looked out the window and saw a large, dark ship hovering above their house. A bright beam of light descended from the ship, enveloping their parents. Mummy and Daddy Pig froze in place with empty eyes. Aliens in silver suits entered the house through the open door. Their faces were hidden under dark helmets, and their movements seemed mechanical. They silently took the parents by the hands and led them toward the exit. Peppa and George hid behind the sofa, trembling with fear. They watched as their parents obediently followed the aliens, as if under hypnosis. The ship made a low humming sound and disappeared into the clouds. The children were left alone in the empty house. Peppa took George's hand and spoke with determination. They had to save Mummy and Daddy, despite their fear. Time was against them. Peppa found Grandpa's old star map in the attic. Strange symbols and coordinates were marked on it. George pointed to a bright star that pulsed with red light. The children built a rocket from cardboard boxes and old parts. Peppa drew control buttons while George added wings. Their homemade ship looked naive, but was full of determination. The rocket took off into the night sky, leaving a sparkling trail behind. The stars seemed cold and distant, and space greeted them with silence. Ahead, the aliens' red planet flickered. On the alien planet, everything was gray and metallic. Tall towers stretched toward the sky, with strange machines crawling between them. The air was heavy, and the sky was purple. Peppa and George snuck to the main tower where prisoners were held. Through the windows, they saw their parents in glass capsules. Mummy and Daddy Pig were sleeping deeply. Robot guards patrolled the tower corridors. Their red eyes scanned every corner, and their metallic feet clanged on the floor. The children hid in the shadows, barely breathing. Peppa found a control panel with many buttons. She pressed the green button and the capsules began to open. The parents slowly woke up, blinking and looking around. An alarm pierced the air with red light. Robot guards rushed toward the tower, their metallic voices echoing through the corridors. The family had to run immediately. Together, they rushed to the exit. Peppa led the family through the maze of corridors, while George watched for robots behind them. Their rocket waited on the landing pad. The family climbed into the rocket and took off at the last moment. Robots fired laser beams but missed. The red planet grew smaller outside. At home, dawn and birdsong greeted them. Mummy Pig hugged the children while Daddy Pig smiled proudly. The adventure was over, but memories of bravery remained forever. Peppa and George told their friends about their space journey. No one believed their story, but the children knew the truth. Sometimes the most incredible adventures happen to ordinary families.